If you want more content, push that subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 800 subscribers, so if you like this video, subscribe and spread the word.
Hello, I'm Henry R. Mockingbird, your host with the mustache. And given how Halloween is right around the corner, I decided to look at another German silent film. Today's review is The Golem, How He Came into the World.
A rabbi named Lo creates the golem, a creature made out of clay, and brings said creature to life using sorcery in order to protect the Jewish community. Well, I like it. The film was based on a Jewish folktale named The Golem, who was created by, for all I know, a rabbi to protect his Jewish people at the time. This folktale would go on to inspire 2 giant monster movies, as well as an episode of The X-Files and an episode of Gargoyles. Hell, there was even a Pokemon named after him, and a comic book series made by Marvel. Golem, How He Came into the World, was a sequel/prequel hybrid of another film from 1915 called The Golem, which sadly only exists in stills and stock footage from the film. At least it's better than what the third Golem film got, Golem and the Dancing Girl, which has been pretty much lost to time and only exists as one still. We see the Rabbi Lo looking up at the stars, and it kind of reminds me of that scene from Neverending Story. Anywho, he comes down to his stairs, which is shaped like a cocoon, or at least the inside of one. And that brings me to the German Expressionism, which it's all over this movie, with buildings being all crooked and decay. And keep in mind, this film came out the same year Cabinet of Dr. Caligari came out. In that film, it felt more like a dream, whereas in this film, the German Expressionism is more grounded. The messenger, who is sent by the king himself to give the Rabbi Lo a message, and it sets up the romance between both Lo's daughter and the messenger. And not to knock the film for having a romance, but I could honestly care less about this romance. It's pretty much only in the film to set up the climax.
Maybe it's just me, but when I think of a film about a guy called the Golem, you know, a guy who is literally made out of stone, I could give 2 cents about this romance. But there is something I want to talk about with this romance.
There's a scene in where the messenger is holding the rabbi's daughter on her breast dude, he's holding her breast. It kind of reminds me of that scene from Thief of Baghdad where the thief and the princess are making out alone. And that scene was so scandalous for 1920 standards. And so is this. Anyway, Rabbi Lo prepares to bring the golem to life by holding a wand and wearing a chef's hat with stars on them. Yeah, I should probably mention now that this movie has the Star of David. We got a little bit of the Star of David in Metropolis, but it was mostly in the background of the scientist's lab. In this movie, the Star of David is pretty much plastered throughout the whole thing. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's basically what brings the golem to life. Call it its on switch, off switch. While they're preparing to make the golem, we see some fireballs floating around and a floating head which blows smoke out of his mouth and basically looks like the decapitated floating head of Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
Well, in all seriousness, this floating head is still better representation of the Gollum from Lord of the Rings than that crappy Golem video game that came out this year.
Between this and the floating head and vampire, were German silent filmmakers just fascinated with floating heads? After the floating head smokes some words out, the golem comes to life, who kind of looks like O'Hare from the Lorax if he were 10 feet taller. Here's a fun fact for you. The golem is played by the director Paul Feigner. Feigner sounds like wanker, doesn't it? The golem starts out his life doing chores, chopping wood, getting water, and going out to get groceries. Rabbi Lo brings the golem to the king's party. Hell, we even get that chick from Nosferatu. Seriously, that's actually the chick from Nosferatu. She even gives the golem a flower. And we get an admittedly sweet scene with the golem smelling the flower. Afterwards, all hell breaks loose as the roof of the castle starts coming down on them. People start jumping out the window, they're panicking, and the king begs the rabbi to get the golem to help them, which he does save them by holding two halves of the roof together. The rabbi's assistant overhears the rabbi's daughter and the messenger hiding. And he goes and gets the golem and wakes him up. And has the golem go after the messenger. The messenger tries to stab him, but given how he's made out of stone, it does nothing. He fights him, and then the golem chases the messenger up the stairs and onto the roof. The golem tosses the messenger off the building, and where he crashes. Thankfully, the golem takes the rabbi's daughter downstairs, and as for the rabbi's assistant, the golem tries to kill him with fire, causing the rabbi's house to catch on fire. Thankfully, the golem drags the rabbi's daughter by her hair to safety. Afterwards, the golem goes outside and finds a girl, which kind of reminds me of that scene from Frankenstein. You know, the one where Frankie is playing with the little girl and they're tossing daisies, only for Frankenstein to think that the girl is a daisy and he accidentally kills her. The main difference is that this scene goes the other way around. Instead of the golem accidentally killing the girl accidentally kills the golem by taking the star off his chest. I went into this film just thinking it would be another film, not knowing the history of the folktale behind it. But with that said, I did learn a lot and enjoyed this film. And for that, I give it 5 golem stars that activate.
Until the next review, I'm Henry R. Mockingbird, your host with the mustache, signing off.
Check out my other shows, Modern Classics, TV Treasures,